rights in politics and in public life. In 2010, the Republic of Serbia adopted a law on prevention of harassment at work, which also includes sexual harassment. For a long period of time, it has been working on amendments to the criminal code, criminal procedure law, and regulating the issue of dealing with violence against women and domestic violence. Amendments to the labor law this year include protection of pregnant women and new mothers from termination of economic agreements. In the law on amendments to the criminal code, adopted in January 2014, a criminal offense committed out of hatred for personal characteristics of the victim, such as gender, is envisaged as an aggravating circumstance for sentencing. Also, the law on special measures for prevention of sex crimes against minors was adopted in April 2013. The government of the Republic of Serbia adopted a settlement policy and operational documents regulating the issue of gender equality and improvement of the status of women that are at the stage of implementation. The National Action Plan for the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1345, wherein peace and security has been applied since December 2010. In addition to establish institutional bodies, there are also gender equality mechanisms such as gender equality advisors, confidence, analytical groups for monitoring annual planning and initiation of implementation of the National Action Plan. Continuous cooperation with civil society organizations has been established. For the first time, the security system in a systematic manner works on the improvement of the status of women with, above all, strong support of the government, the competent committee of the National Assembly, and particularly with sensitization of all relevant stakeholders and media promotion of this process. The Republic of Serbia adopted the Strategy for the Prevention and Protection Against Discrimination on 27 June 2013. The Office for Human and Minority Rights coordinated the development of the strategy in accordance with the recommendation which the Commissioner on the Protection of Equality presented in its regular report in 2011, but also in accordance with the recommendation of civil society organizations. This document is aimed at improving the status of 9 vulnerable groups: women, children, persons with disabilities, the elderly, members of the LGBT population, national minorities, refugees, and internally displaced persons, and members of other vulnerable migrant groups, persons whose health may be the cause of discrimination, and members of religious groups. Madam Chairperson, the law on amendments to the law on the election of deputies was adopted in May 2011, which, in terms of nomination, envisages that the electoral list must contain 3 candidates on the list, at least 1 person of the gender less represented on the list. The law on amendments to the law on local elections was adopted in July 2011, which introduced the same formula for written purposes. Solutions for all of the above-stated laws were for the first time implemented in the elections conducted for the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia and provincial, city, and municipal assemblies on 6 May 2012. After the elections, the National Assembly verified deputies' mandates, the third of whom were women, and the Republic of Serbia, in terms of this, is in the 24th position in the world according to the Treaty of Interparliamentary Union. Also, the government was formed in the Republic of Serbia on the 27th July 2012 with 19 members, 5 of whom are women. In early August 2012, the National Assembly elected a woman as the head of the National Bank of Serbia. Within the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia operates the Committee for Human and Minority Rights and Gender Equality, for the first time established in the exercise of protection of human rights and freedoms and implementation of ratified international treaties governing protection of human rights. The Committee for Human and Minority Rights and Gender Equality has so far held 17 sessions and 3 public hearings on the status of women, violence against women, the status of women, sex and gender-based discrimination, and trafficking of women. The National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia formed the 6-member commission monitoring the execution of the National Action Plan for the implementation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on peace and security in February 2013, counting on the one-member. Its task is to control and monitor operation of all authorities and mechanisms for the implementation of this plan. Since February 2013, the Women's Parliamentary Network has been operating in the National Assembly as an informal group in which all women delegates participate voluntarily regardless of their party affiliation for the purposes of monitoring the implementation of existing legal solutions in the field of health and education of women, combating violence against women, and their economic empowerment. The fourth occasion of the Council for Gender Equality of the Government of the Republic of Serbia was established on 12 April 2013, and the first session was held on 29 May 2013. Council tasks are to consider proposed measures for the improvement of the gender equality policy from the point of view of intersectional cooperation in this field, and to initiate programs and measures for encouraging and training women to participate in public and political life. The Directorate for Gender Equality of the Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Policy, which operates in accordance with the 3 laws of ministries from 2008, 2011 and 2012, provides administrative technical support to the Council. One of the competencies of the Directorate for Gender Equality is also implementation of recommendations of the UN Komiteta on the elimination of discrimination against women. This is of your respective body. According to the law on gender equality, authorities and local government units must have established standing working bodies or designate gender equality employees for conducting activities aimed at achieving equal opportunities. In the Republic of Serbia, there are over 100 local authorities in gender equality, such as councils, commissions, etc., as well as 20 employees for gender equality. The Commissioner for the Protection of Equality is established according to the anti-discrimination law, and the Ombudsman, invested by the Constitutional Republic of Serbia, are authorized to prevent and combating sex and gender-based discrimination and to take steps in assisting victims of discrimination. Local ombudsmen also involved in political issues on the basis of the law of the government. The issue of combating discrimination against women was assigned by the ombudsman to one of its deputies, and this authority has its own gender equality council, which organized 6 sessions in 2001. Madam Chairperson, the Republic of Serbia signed the Council of Europe Convention on Prevention and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence on 4th April 2012. The Convention ratification procedure is now underway. The Committee on Human and Minority Rights and Gender Equality of the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia held a meeting last week concerning the proposal of the law on the ratification of the stated treaty and adopted it. The competent ministries fulfilled their obligations under the General Protocol on Procedures and Cooperation of Institutions, authorities and organizations in situation of domestic and partner relationship violence against women from November 2011 and adopted its own special protocols. The Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Policy adopted a special protocol for actions of social care centres, guardianship authorities in cases of domestic and partner relationship violence against women on March 2013, which, together with the completion of the procedure, ratification of the State and Council of Europe Convention, fulfill stars committed to in the campaign of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, which was, on behalf of the Republic of Serbia, signed by the Serbian Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for Labour, Employment and Social Policy on 28 February 2013. The Ministry of Military Work also adopted its special protocol for actions on police officers in cases of domestic and partner relationship violence against women in February 2013. Together with the UNICEF, the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology developed and established a special organization unit for protection from violence, and there are emergency telephone numbers held by civil society organizations and public institutions which violations of rights, discrimination or violence can be reported to. The movement of the Republic of Serbia in preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence is considered to be one of our central tasks. Only in 2012, 140 social care centers in the Republic of Serbia provided assistance to about 9,500 victims of physical, psychological, sexual, and economic violence. In 96% of cases, violence took place in the family. We have put a lot of efforts training members of competent authorities and the Judicial Academy and programs for working with perpetrators of violence, amending relevant laws and other acts, organizing public media campaigns, working in schools and cooperating with civil society. Nevertheless, we still come across cases of serious injuries, even murders, motivated merely by the fact that the victim is a woman. For this reason, we are committed to proceed with the steps leading to eradication of violence against women and domestic violence and to resolving this serious problem. The catalogue on teacher training program issued in the Republic of Serbia every 2 years contains trainings on violence prevention and gender equality topics. About 70 professional training programs is dedicated to the issues of discrimination, working with the students from marginalized groups, gender or sex-based issues, or working with the students with learning or development disabilities. Since 2009, within the activities of the dedicated Roma, the Ministry of Health has engaged 75 women as health mediators in 59 healthcare centers who have visited and incorporated in the healthcare system 40,381 women, which, as a matter of fact, accounts for about 100 women, according to the results of the last census from 2011. Activities of this type are maintained furthermore, and 87.66% of Roma women are covered by health insurance today. According to the same census, there are 571,780 persons with disability living in the Republic of Serbia, out of whom 58.20% are women. Women with disabilities are one of the most vulnerable or sensitive social groups, and their status has not changed much. Therefore, one of the foundations of the education system is inclusive education in the education system in the Republic of Serbia. The right to wage subsidies for persons with disabilities from the budget fund for vocational rehabilitation and promotion of employment of persons with disabilities in 2012 was exercised by 41 companies for vocational rehabilitation and employment of persons with disabilities. We have taken steps in support of Roma women, women with disabilities, and others from the multiple discriminating group. It can be said that significant progress has been made in the healthcare sector, whereas in terms of the education system, unfortunately, this is not the case because we have a significant number of Roma women without primary and secondary school education. We are fully aware that there is still a lot of work to be done in this field in order to ensure actual application of envisaged standards. adopted adequate regulations and research procedures. However, the poor implementation remains our main cause for the current period. We expect in the near future to establish better cooperation and a partnership relationship with civil society organizations and to establish and maintain a unique alliance with associations of multiply discriminated persons for the purposes of improving their status. We have been dealing with employment of women, marriage, and the legal meaning of marriage, identity documents of women refugees, and displaced persons. We have significantly improved the statistics in the system for keeping and processing the data classified by gender. We have been engaged in combating the trafficking in women. There is a systematic manner in which in the Republic of Serbia we have been working on the improvement of the status of women and labor relations and the security system, which is strongly supported by the government, the competent committee of the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia, and particularly with the sensitization of all relevant stakeholders and media promotion of this process. Madam Chairperson, I would like to emphasize in particular that even though the UN Security Council Resolution 1244, Kosovo and Metohija is an integral part of the Republic of Serbia, Serbia, as a state party to the convention, has not been able to implement it or oversee its implementation in this part of its territory. Pursuant to Security Council Resolution 1244, administration of the province of Kosovo and Metohija has been entirely entrusted to the United Nations Interim Organization missions in Kosovo, and in such circumstances, my country has partially described the serious situation prevailing in this part of the territory of the Republic of Serbia as contained in an annex to the second and third protocol report, which is before you today. In this connection, we recall that considering the initial report submitted by the Republic of Serbia in 2007, its concluding comments accepted those parts of the request by the Serbian delegation relating to calling upon the country to provide additional information on the application of the Convention on Kosovo and Metohija. Since the requested information has not been provided to date, we suggest that the committee urges once again the UNMIC to prepare and supply the relevant information on compliance with the Convention on Kosovo and Metohija. The information prepared by and received from UNMIC, together with information submitted by the government of the Republic of Serbia, is the only way for gaining a credible and full insight into the human rights situation, including compliance with the Convention on Kosovo and Metohija. In this context, the government of the Republic of Serbia is a state party which is under the Convention solely responsible for the submission of reports on its implementation, will continue to submit in the future all information available to it regarding the implementation of the Convention on Kosovo and Metohija. Madam Chairperson, in the end, allow me to inform you that in terms of amendment to Article 20, Paragraph 1 of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, the government of the Republic of Serbia submitted to the National Assembly a draft law ratifying the above-mentioned amendment on 16th April 2013, thus they are in the regular procedure. The Committee on Human and Minority Rights and Gender Equality of the National Assembly of the Republic
je i usvojio ovaj predlog na svojoj sednici 11. jula 2013. godine. U proteklom periodu trudili smo se da utemeljimo uspostavljanje ravnopravnosti polova kao kontinuirani proces, ali smo svesni da je neophodno mnoge delove tog procesa unaprediti i dalje razvijati. Republika Srbija će nastaviti da ulaže napore za dalje unapređenje položaja i zaštite prava žena, kako bi dostigla propisane najviše standarde u domenu ljudskih prava i ispunila preuzete međunarodne obaveze. U tom smislu, učešće na ovom zasedanju komiteta vidimo takođe kao važno iskustvo i jednu od značajnih faza u narednom procesu. Poštovana gospođo predsjedavajuća i uvaženi članovi komiteta, zahvaljujem se na vašoj pažnji.
Madame la Minister, Excellencies, on behalf of the committee, I thank the State cooperation with non-governmental organizations, and role of the Parliament in the reporting process and implementation of the CEDAW Convention. And I'm also very glad that you're a member of the Parliament as a member of the delegation. With respect to legal framework and direct application of the CEDAW Convention, we have seen from your core document on page 23 that recognized international treaties are integral to the legal system of the Republic of Serbia and are directly applicable, and ratified international treaties must be in compliance with the Constitution. That means that you have a monistic legal system, and in theory, convention is directly applicable. But then we posed a question with respect to court cases in which you have a court referred to CEDAW Convention, where CEDAW Convention was invoked, and we have received the reply that there are no such cases, that you have no situations in which a court is really directly referring to applying CEDAW Convention. And furthermore, it was also replied that there were no cases in which women claimed their rights in courts by invoking provisions on non-discrimination against women and gender equality. If this is the case, how do you plan in the future to proceed with better knowledge about the CEDAW Convention with respect to legal professionals, judiciary in general, in order to have CEDAW Convention directly applied? Do you have kind of education on jurisprudence of the CEDAW Committee on cases that we have under the optional protocol that relate to violence against women, discrimination against women, and that are very important for judiciary and legal professionals to use also optional protocol as a tool for implementation of the CEDAW Convention? Then my second question is connected with cooperation with non-governmental organizations. We have seen that you have very vibrant civil society, and I hope that you are in position to see all shadow reports that we have received during this session. Could we have more information about cooperation of the government with respect to preparation of this report, but also cooperation in general? Do you have any specific funds that you are allocating to work of non-governmental organizations in fields that are dealing with implementation of this convention? And my last question is connected with the role of the Parliament in the implementation of the CEDAW Convention and this issue of direct application of the CEDAW Convention. Do you have specific
Thank you, Madam Chair. I join the previous speakers for the heartfelt welcome and congratulations for the progress made in the Republic of Serbia since their last reporting. In that same breath, I would also like to commend the Republic of Serbia for having signed the Council of Europe Convention on preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence, that is the Istanbul Convention. This convention is very important in its own right as the first legally binding instrument in Europe that addresses violence against women specifically. But it is also very important for us here in CEDAW because it ensures a better implementation of the provisions of CEDAW. Provisions of the Istanbul Convention are based on the principal tenets of CEDAW, and they follow the fundamental definition of violence against women that was formulated in General Recommendation 19 of this committee. So, therefore, the ratification of the Istanbul Convention and its eventual implementation will strengthen the implementation of CEDAW and will very much facilitate Serbia fulfilling its international obligations under the CEDAW Convention too. So my second point is about the reservations that you have placed on this convention upon signing. They refer to the extraterritorial application of the offences of the most violent type in violence against women that are committed abroad and to compensation to victims. I realize that the reservations are the prerogative of a state. However, I would like to respectfully invite the state of Serbia to reconsider at the ratification stage, perhaps, your reservations, particularly because I have some information that Serbia has not put similar reservations to other Council of Europe provisions with almost identical nature. Thirdly, I would like to thank once again for the assurances that was provided by the head of delegation that the convention will be ratified soon and that the competent ministries have completed their work. So my question is, can you tell us what is the next stage now, and can you give us some definite or some specific time frame for the finalization of the ratification process for the Istanbul Convention? And finally, I would like to say, has there been any awareness raising or training of state officials in these in the ministries and agencies, as well as in the context of the judiciary with regard to the provisions of the Istanbul Convention? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we move to Article 3. Madam Aydar.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Allow me also to express my happiness to be able to address the delegation from Serbia. I would like to build on the points made by my colleagues under point 1 and 8 in the area of the current legislative framework and what is happening on the ground concretely. We have noted from the UPR review of 2013 as well as the Human Rights Committee that although we all appreciate the efforts made in the past years on the legislative framework and we acknowledge the progress achieved, nonetheless the gap between the implementation and reality on the ground is noticeable. So, in as far as all the measures that can accompany the implementation of law, I would like to know a little bit more again on the better coordination with the non-governmental sector, being the one that would really be an extension of the resources of the government to reach out for the targeted group, how this can be really systematized rather than happen haphazard. The second thing is also pertaining to the advocacy campaign that the government has undertook or did not yet undertake to bring the content of the law to all those who are going to use it and implement it including, as mentioned earlier, the judiciary, the police, and all the other concerned part of the state. I would like also to know what about the resources allocated for the implementation. It seems from all the documentation that we received that most of the resources come from foreign budget, and what is the intention to move to national budgeting in allocating the resources as well, since this is an issue of sustainability of the effort over time. And I would like also to know what are the real measures. Many strategies and several action plans, but there is a concern about the multi-sectoral, intersectoral rather, coordination, how this is happening on the one hand, and more important, is there any monitoring and evaluation of what is happening? Are there any indicators, targets, benchmarks that the government is using to be able to assess its progress and identify eventually the constraints? And the last, but not the least, again, I go back to the issue of cooperation with NGOs, and I think that the dimension of the outreach of the current policy has to be very much addressed, both in order to target also the disadvantaged group, but I would come to that under the second point more, maybe under the special measures. But very important is to note that the national strategy and its action plan seem to not to have enough relevance, in particular, in as far as the post-conflict dimension of the country is concerned. Although you refer to 1325, but there seems to be there again a certain gap between the official political will and the translation of it on the ground, and that is definitely an issue that concerns a lot the large population of internally displaced persons, and Serbia has one of the largest population of IDPs in Europe. So I wanted to know if there are the intention to get to monitoring more pragmatically and have measurable indicators that would serve also better the government in assessing its own rate of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the delegation to answer. The delegation asked for 2 minutes. Thank you. So you have the floor.
Uvažena gospođo predsjedavajuća, na odgovore na pitanja koja se odnose na predmete koji se nalaze već pred sudom i predmeti koji su procesuirani od strane gospođe Šimanović, odgovara gospodin Dragan Knežević iz Ministarstva za rad, zapošljavanje i socijalnu politiku, a zatim i gospodin Nenad Jovanović iz Ministarstva pravde.
Hvala, gospođo. Dozvolite mi da budem što kraći u svom odgovoru i da precizno vam navedem primere i slučajeve sudske prakse koje se odnose na predmet o kome danas govorimo. Član 51 Zakona o ravnopravnosti polova iz 2009. godine reguliše da su sudovi u Republici dužni da sve pravosnažne odluke donete u parnicama za ostvarivanje građansko-pravne zaštite zbog diskriminacije na osnovu pola dostavljaju Ministarstvu nadležno za ravnopravnost polova. U ovom slučaju, a na osnovu zakona o ministarstvima iz jula 2012. godine, to je Ministarstvo rada, zapošljavanja i socijalne politike. U skladu sa tim, kao i pravilnikom o evidenciji i dokumentaciji o pravosnažnim odlukama sudova o zaštiti zbog diskriminacije polova, koje je ovo isto ministarstvo još 2010. godine donelo, do sada, od 2011. pa do danas, evidentirane su samo dva takve slučaje. U oba primjera radilo se o tužbama koje je pokrenula Poverenica za zaštitu ravnopravnosti. U prvom to je bilo slučaj jedne žene koja je bila diskriminisana u jednoj banci u Beogradu, a u drugom slučaju radilo se o presudi Prvog osnovnog suda o registraciji izvršenoj zbog diskriminacije ženskih fudbalskih klubova u pravilniku Beogradskog fudbalskog saveza. Oba ova predmeta nije bilo pozivanja na konvenciju o eliminaciji diskriminacije žena. S obzirom da sam već dobio reč, ja bih iskoristio ovo pre nego što kolega Jovanović preuzme dalje ovo pitanje, da kažem nešto i o nevladinim organizacijama i tome kakva se saradnja očekuje i kako radimo sa njima. Pretpostavljam da će i drugi kolege imati nešto s tim u vezi da dodaju. Uprava za rodnu ravnopravnost Ministarstva rada i socijalne politike svake godine raspisuje konkurse koji se dodeljuju krajem, obično u novembru, organizacijama civilnog društva koje se bave promocijom rodne ravnopravnosti, osnaživanjem žena i drugim postupcima vezanim za, opet kažem, predmet o kome danas raspravljamo. To će biti slučaj i ove godine i bez obzira što smo pre 10 dana imali rebalans, da tako kažem, budžeta i što je on usvojen, ova stavka se nije dirala i ona je ostala i dalje otvorena, tako da se već tradicionalno može očekivati da dođe do raspisivanja ovog konkursa. Ipak, hteo bih da odem i korak dalje da se informišemo o nečemu što je, rekao bih, najnovije, a to je da je pre nekoliko meseci usvojeno su izmene i dopune Poslovnika Vlade Republike Srbije, koji u jednom delu predviđa jedan širi postupak, otvoreniji postupak predlaganja i usvajanja zakona koje izvršna vlast dostavlja. U okviru toga predviđena je obavezna saradnja sa organizacijama civilnog društva i sada imamo situaciju da je to prosto jedna obaveza državnih organa za koju mi smatramo da je i zadovoljstvo, to moramo reći, s obzirom da gledamo na taj jedan viši odnos kao jedno partnerstvo ili ako hoćete i dijalog. Mi ne tražimo konsultacije od organizacija civilnog društva, mi smo u dijalogu s njima i integrisano, a kako i sam ovaj poslovnik sada predviđa, želimo da donosimo propise koje uključuju ideje organizacije civilnog društva, koje uključuju njihove rezultate rada, koje izuzetno uvažavamo. Ja bih ovde se zaustavio i omogućio dalje da kolege dodaju nešto o ovome. Hvala.
Gospodine Jovanoviću. Narodnoj skupštini, gospođa Tamara Tripić, narodni poslanik. Izvolite.
Pa što se tiče parlament nijedan propis ne stiže u parlament na usvajanje pre nego što nakon usvajanja na vladi ne prođe kancelariju za evropske integracije i samim tim se ne ustanovi da li je harmonizovan sa pravnom regulativom Evropske unije. Naravno, onog trenutka kada zakon stigne u parlament, on je predmet pre svega razmatranja raznih odbora u parlamentu, između ostalog odbora za evropske integracije, akademije za temu ljudska prava, onda i odbora za ljudska i manjinska prava, nekad i odbora za prava deteta. I u tom smislu sada mi imamo onda mogućnost da eventualno kao poslanici u toku razmatranja zakonskog predloga možemo da amandmanima malo korigujemo zakone koji su predloženi od strane vlade. Ono što parlament takođe koristi, to su javna slušanja gde pokušavamo da otvorimo probleme i da zajedno sa nevladinim sektorom javnosti i nezavisnim telima koji su formirani u Republici Srbiji skrenemo pažnju na probleme koji su vrlo uočljivi u našem društvu. Tako smo mi Odbor za ljudska i manjinska prava imao do sada u ovom mandatu 4 javne slušanja, imali smo dosta okruglih stolova, bavili smo se nasiljem u porodici, položajem Romkinja, ulogom zaštitnika građana i poverenice u rešavanju svih problema vezanih za kršenje ljudskih prava. Takođe, mi smo uspeli da formiramo i žensku parlamentarnu mrežu, za sada kao neformalnu grupu. Ideja je upravo da ženska parlamentarna mreža otvori rodno senzitivne probleme koji postoje u društvu i da se poslanici iz različitih političkih opcija na tim pitanjima ujedine i zajedno deluju na zasedanjima parlamenta.
Sledeće pitanje odnosi se na, mislim da je to gospođa Šulic, na pitanja koje se tiču višestruke diskriminacije i nove strategije, kako se ova strategija bavi posebno sa 9 ranjivih grupa koje sam i pomenula u svom uvodnom izlaganju. Gospođa Suzana Paunović, direktor Kancelarije za ljudska i manjinska prava.
Uvažena predsjedavajuća, uvaženi članovi komiteta, Vlada Republike Srbije je juna meseca ove godine usvojila strategiju zaštite i prevencije od diskriminacije. To je dokument koji je urađen na osnovu preporuka poverenice za zaštitu ravnopravnosti. I ja bih pre svega želela da istaknem da je to prva strategija koja je rađena u potpuno participativnom procesu sa nevladinim sektorom. Dakle, mi smo prilikom procesa izrade strategije imali formirane radne grupe koje su učinili predstavnici nevladinog sektora i radne grupe koje su učinili predstavnici ministarstava u Vladi Republike Srbije. Praktično inpute za sadržinu ove strategije Vlada Republike Srbije dobila od organizacija civilnog društva i osobe koje su angažovane i organizacije koje su angažovane na izradi strategije su izabrane na javnom pozivu. Ono što bih takođe želela da istaknem je da je ova strategija predstavljena pre njenog usvajanja u 15 lokalnih samouprava u Srbiji na okruglim stolovima na kojima su učestvovali predstavnici lokalnih samouprava, predstavnici nevladinih organizacija i svi zaštitnici ljudskih prava koji funkcionišu u tom regionu u kome je strategija i predstavljena. Prvi put u Republici Srbiji se jednim strateškim dokumentom pominju grupe koje su u riziku da budu diskriminisane, jasno se navode i kao jedna od grupa u okviru strategije se navode i žene. Ono što takođe želim da istaknem je da je u ovom trenutku u izradi akcioni plan za primjenu strategije i mi ćemo se praktično kroz izradu akcionog plana, koji očekujemo da se usvoji do kraja ove godine, baviti konkretnim aktivnostima kroz vremensku
bez jednog pravnog propisa apsolutno se možete obratiti po više osnova, bilo kom organu koji je nadležan da raspravlja pitanja diskriminacije, posebno kada je u pitanju poverenik za ravnopravnost, za zaštitu ravnopravnosti, s time što se u praksi više dešavalo da se pozovu na jedan osnov, pa to do duše sigurno zavisi malo i od upućenosti onoga koji se zapravo na diskriminaciju i žali. Kada je sledeće pitanje je bilo kada o nameri Republike Srbije za sledeći korak za ratifikaciju Istanbulske konvencije, mislim da je gospođa Hajdar, ne znam da li sam dobro izgovorila, u najskorijem periodu planiramo ratifikaciju ove konvencije. Pokušat ćemo da to uradimo sigurno u jednom od prva dva redovna zasedanja. U ovom trenutku nemam raspored rada Skupštine Republike Srbije, ali će to svakako biti prvi mogući termin, jer ne postoji razlog da to odugovlačimo. Sledeća pitanja. Jedno još samo pitanje da pokrijemo koje je bilo vezano za same obuke, s obzirom da je i to jedna od stvari koja nam je neophodna u podizanju svesti u cilju primene Istanbulske konvencije. Gospodin Anđel Milošević iz Ministarstva unutrašnjih poslova ima jednu malu dobu.
Odgovarajući na ovo pitanje obuke, ja sam radim, obuke vezane za prezentaciju i upoznavanje kako državnih organa, tako i celokupne javnosti za konvenciju Saveta Evrope o suzbijanju i borbi protiv nasilja nad ženama i nasilja u porodici. Želim da naglasim da je postojalo određenih aktivnosti uz veoma bitnu stvar da je predstavnica Republike Srbije učestvovala u izradi te međunarodne konvencije, profesorka Gasmi, koja je u velikoj želji da predstavi svom narodu i svojoj Srbiji šta to sve podrazumeva konvencija, pomagala nama prilikom sačinjavanja i nacionalne strategije, a i dalje drugih nekih stvari, tako da smo bili proaktivni u postupanju što se tiče te međunarodne konvencije. Također želim da kažem da u saradnji sa nevladinom organizacijom Autonomni ženski centar Ministarstva rada i profesorke Gasmi, kažem, koja je učestvovala u izradi te konvencije,
molim vas sporije prevod.
Održana je konferencija u martu mesecu prošle godine pod nazivom Novi standardi u zaštiti žena od svih oblika nasilja u susret ratifikaciji Konvencije Saveta Evrope. Tako da ukratko želim da kažem da saradnja s nevladinim organizacijama postoji u tom smislu što i na međunarodnom planu prepoznajemo zajedničke interese. Želim da kažem da tu međunarodnu konvenciju iščekujemo željno jer smatramo da će vrlo bitno poboljšati sam sistem u Republici Srbiji u suzbijanju nasilja u porodici.
Gospođa Punović, izvolite.
Ja bih samo želela da upoznam članove Komiteta u Republici Srbiji su formirane nekoliko institucija koje imaju za cilj obuke državnih službenika koji se bave različitim pitanjima zaštite posebno osetljivih grupa. Pre svega bih istakla postojanje Pravosudne akademije koja je zadužena
Hvala i samo još poslednji odgovor, predsjedavajuća pominje, izvinjavam se, malo smo odužili, odnosi se na pitanje i saradnje sa civilnim sektorom i budžeta koji treba da bude predviđen za te namene. Naravno da je ta saradnja svakim danom sve bolja, već je pomenuto da imamo osnovanu kancelariju za saradnju sa civilnim društvom, ali je činjenica da su sredstva uglavnom obezbeđivana od stranih donatorskih sredstava. Međutim, u poslednjih nekoliko godina na posebnim razdelima određenih ministarstava predviđene su i posebne pozicije za dodelu sredstava nevladinim organizacijama po različitim pitanjima, među kojima je veliki broj pitanja koje se odnose na diskriminaciju, unapređivanje položaja žena. S time moram naglasiti da je ipak, naravno, finansijska situacija u kojoj se nalazi naša zemlja ne dozvoljava da ta sredstva povećamo više u ovom trenutku. Međutim, to nikako ne znači da u narednom periodu ta sredstva neće biti sve više i više povećavane iz godine u godinu, taman onako kako i Republika Srbija bude više sređivala i svoju ekonomsku situaciju i podizala i privredni razvoj, time i stabilizovala stanje u ekonomiji. Tako će sigurno i veći iznos sredstava moći biti raspoređivan i usmeravan za rad nevladinog sektora, koji je itekako značajan upravo za ova pitanja, jer sigurno da sami državni organi nemaju dovoljno kapaciteta da sve ono što je pred nama iznesu sami, a i to jeste uloga civilnog sektora.
Merci Madame la Ministre. Je pense en effet que la question importante était de comprendre dans quelle mesure et dans quelle...
Do you have the translation? I think we could reformulate the question. We want to know whether your country intends to ensure that the budget is increasingly a national budget which properly indicates the priority given to this issue of equality and combating discrimination, to avoid being dependent, if you may say so, on external aid, and in particular European aid. I will now open up the floor for one or two follow-up questions. Madam Haider, Madam Schulz and Madam Neubauer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will not come back to the issue of budget. You recapped it, but I didn't really get an answer on the measurable indicators, the targets, the benchmark, how you plan to monitor the implementation of the plan. Because if you do not really pay enough attention at this stage, you will not be able to identify the constraints and not be able to address them properly. Is there any, measure to be able to produce interim reports that regularly inform about what works, what doesn't work, and why? Is the only way to be able to progress in a cumulative manner. Please indicate. Thank you.
Madame Schulz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question on two groups of vulnerable people, lesbians on the one hand and women with disabilities. We've read from the alternative sources and from your report that women with disabilities suffer a lot of discriminations in various fields. And I would also like to refer to alternative sources telling us that members of sexual minorities are exposed to violence, poverty, social exclusion, hate speech, if not actual hate crimes. And so I would like to ask what you will be doing, what you have been doing, what you will be doing to fight discrimination against these two groups specifically. And referring to General Recommendation 28 on the core obligations of the state parties, I have a question on the measures taken or planned to reduce discrimination against lesbians and to improve their situation, including by fighting homophobic attitudes and stereotypes against sexual minorities. Specifically, do you plan to introduce a registered partnership that would give legal recognition to lesbian couples and would have legal consequences in various fields such as civil law, social law, nationality law, etc.?
there any time frame for the adoption of the draft law on free legal aid? Second, of course, we've received information that there were many cases that were lodged with Deputy Ombudsperson for Gender Equality by women, rejected as unfounded. Since I know that the Ombuds reports to the Parliament, were there any indications about, let's say, poor legal knowledge of women claiming their rights and the reason for having so many, most of complaints in cases of alleged discrimination on the grounds of sex found by Ombudsperson as unfounded? Therefore, I would like to know what actions were taken to foster the knowledge about our convention and about relevant national laws among general public, but in particular among women themselves. Leave now, the judiciary and enforcement sector and so on, but women themselves, to enable them to effectively claim their rights. And I also learned that the Commissioner is struggling with the resources. May I ask whether you are giving in this budgetary year adequate resources to Commissioner in order to protect the independence of this institution and to allow the Commissioner to perform all the extensive competencies bestowed upon this institution. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je donne la parole à Madame Simonovic.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I would like to thank all members of delegation that responded to questions raised with respect to direct application of the CEDAW Convention. And from your replies, it is visible that currently we can see that there is incorporation of the CEDAW Convention at the national level to different pieces of law on gender equality and non-discrimination, but there is no sufficient direct application. And my question is now more specific with respect to Judicial Academy. Do you have education for judges on jurisprudence of the CEDAW Committee? Do you have explanation of cases, concrete cases that we are having under the option protocol that relate to women's human rights? And how do you plan then, if you don't have it, do you plan to proceed with such education? My last remark is connected with something that was mentioned in introductory statement of you, Madam Head of Delegation. You mentioned that the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia established a 6-member commission to monitor execution of the National Action Plan for the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1325, and then you remarked that in that commission you have only one man member. So could you explain what was this remark aimed for? Is it positive or is it negative, or what do you see as significance of this remark? Do you think that it is good, or we should have more gender balance in such commission in the future? And how do you cooperate this commission and governmental body that is working on implementation of 1325?
Merci beaucoup, Madame Pomeranzi.
Merci, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the delegation for the answers made to the first question posed by the committee, but I would like to know better about the point 3, how the national mechanism for gender equality, the many mechanisms for gender equality that you have, are interacting, are continuing to dialogue with the women's NGOs and the civil society. Because, of course, it's important to have an institutionalization
that you are making to integrate this population do not currently seem to be entirely convincing. So I would like to hear about your vision of the policy that could be strengthened to provide specific, concrete solutions to this, and